unusual wasps that turn cockroaches into puppets, sea slugs that use crabs to lay eggs, and a disgusting worm that controls the minds of snails. In this episode, you'll see these and other of the nastiest and creepiest parasites. Let's go! What could it be? And we'll start with this interesting and at the same time unusual photo which was sent to me by a subscriber. He claims that the picture is real and it shows his longtime girlfriend with some strange parasite under her skin. It's silly to deny that this picture is incredibly nasty and unpleasant, but don't rush to examine your hands, wanting to make sure that you're alright. I think the picture's a fake. This monster under the skin is too strangely shaped. And anyway, how could it get there? I think that someone found a small octopus on the internet and photoshopped it under the girl's arm. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. But I didn't doubt the existence of another parasite. I'm talking about the existence of the tyrant leech king that lives in the Amazon. It's distinguished from all the other representatives of the Clitellets class by its gigantic teeth compared to the size of its body. Thanks to them, this monster sucks on the mucous membranes with great pleasure and drinks blood for several days or even weeks. For comparison, other leeches leave the prey alone as soon as they're full. At the time of birth, the size of the tyrant leech king is not that intimidating. The length doesn't exceed an inch. However, if they find a feeder, then they do better with its presence, and the leeches grow up to 3 inches in length. Most often, these creatures penetrate the human body through the respiratory tract, that is, through the nose. From there, they make their way to the rectum, genitals, or stick to the eyeball. Their waste products also accumulate here, which do not contribute to improving the well-being of the victim. In a short period of time, the poor human who's had their blood drunk without permission will begin to feel much worse. They'll have bleeding and severe coughing. Long neighborhood with such a leech leads to various forms of anemia. Without timely help and diagnosis of the localization of the parasite, a person can feel much worse. Sand flea. Like all parasites, this nasty creature feeds on blood. The creature penetrates the skin, usually in the foot area, and thereby causes disease. If not treated in time, this disease can lead to bacterial infections and, in some neglected cases, to amputation of the affected area. If you think that not getting caught in the flea trap is easy enough, then you just don't know anything about it. The sand parasites are negligible. Spotting them is almost unrealistic. The length of their body is about a millimeter. The main danger, as is usually the case, is females. Males bite and suck blood like all ordinary fleas, but females need more. They need flesh. Such a great need comes to them only after fertilization. They penetrate under the human skin and begin to germinate under it. In just 2 weeks, their abdomen increases several times. And the larger the size of the individual, the larger its needs are, of course. The sand flea will consume more and more human blood, causing pain and severe itching. Once mature, the female starts laying eggs, from which up to 200 fleas can be born. Fortunately, they're not born inside the human body, but outside. However, people are still at risk of getting tetanus. As you can see, there are many creatures in the world that are only too happy to settle inside a person and live off them. But don't think that nature's only getting back at us. Things are certainly no better for animals. The Lord of Caterpillars. I gave this name to the next parasite for a reason. Now you'll understand why it's so. I'm talking about the parasitoid wasp that chooses a caterpillar as a surrogate mother for its offspring. And the word chooses is an understatement. The wasp finds a prey and stings it, paralyzing it and injecting its usual toxins into it. The plan doesn't end there because, among other things, the wasp also lays eggs in the poor creature. Up to 80 eggs to be more precise. The point is that the toxins injected by the wasp do not allow the caterpillar to turn into a chrysalis, which means that the babies remain intact and healthy. Once hatched inside the surrogate mother, they begin to change chemical reactions inside its body and influence the caterpillar's behavior. When it comes time to pupate, the larvae gnaw an exit in the prey's body and get out. But the most interesting thing is that the caterpillar stays alive afterwards. Moreover, it protects its babies until its last breath, not realizing that it's been used very roughly. Emerald cockroach wasp. Wasps rule not only over caterpillars, sometimes they're happy to take control of cockroaches. Slavery of the poor insects begins with a chance encounter with a wasp. The cockroach just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, and as a result, a sting with infection is assured. Unlike spiders, many wasps first paralyze their prey before eating or dragging it into their lair. The emerald cockroach wasp does roughly the same thing. During an attack, it instantly delivers 2 stings. First, it stings any part of the cockroach's body, as its main purpose is to paralyze the prey and reduce its resistance and struggle. And second, it bites the cockroach's head, or more precisely, its brain. Just realizing that fact alone already gives me chills. With this cruel method, the wasp injects into the cockroach's body a special blocking agent which does not allow the prey to understand everything that's happening. Since the wasp itself is quite small, it wouldn't be able to drag the cockroach to its home, so it simply takes it by the antenna and drags it towards the house like a dog on a leash. Otherwise, the cockroach doesn't understand anything. It can move, so the wasp manages to do it without much trouble. Once in the lair, the parasite lays its small clutch on the cockroach's abdomen, consisting of 1 egg, which is 2 millimeters long. To secure its cockroach from the accidental raid of other insects, the wasp piles the exit of the lair with small stones. Now, when the offspring of the wasp hatches out of the poor creature, the cockroach will become both a home and a living dining room for it. The most terrible thing is that the cockroach remains alive all this time, and as scientists say, even feels like it's being eaten from the inside. Sea slugs. This is the name of some of the deepest fish in the world, which live even at a depth of 27,000 feet. The extreme deep sea inhabitants were first discovered in 1953. Until then, no one would have thought that at such a depth someone could exist, at least in theory. Depending on the depth, the slugs can have a different appearance, but the most interesting thing about them is not even that. The fact is that the females of some sea slug species are parasitic on Far Eastern crabs. Yes, these fish can parasitize. However, they do not eat anyone, but use other marine inhabitants for their own purposes. In particular, they dump their eggs on the crabs. You might think there's nothing wrong with that, so they dump them. What's the big deal? The conditions are good, the babies are born healthy, everyone's happy. However, that's not quite true. In fact, as scientists have found out, such a solution from sea slugs negatively affects crabs. Since the caviar gets between their gills, they have necrosis of these tissues, and then the death of the animal occurs. Yes, it doesn't always happen, about 30% of the time, but nevertheless, the chance of dying in a crab is too high. Saculina. I don't know what's better, to die like a crab that carries other animals' offspring, or to become a prey of Saculina that will enslave and zombify you. Saculina is a genus of barnacles. It does what all parasites do. It lives off other animals. But how does it do it? To understand that, we have to start at the beginning. It emerges from its egg and swims through the water. Then it realizes that it needs to find a crab and attach itself to its future host. Before deep penetration into the prey's body, the lady gets rid of almost the entire torso. It won't need it anymore. With its sharp spike on the head, Saculina makes a hole in the crab and puts a group of its brain cells inside his body. They all settle on the prey's digestive tract and begin to divide, forming the body of the parasite. Saculina begins to literally sprout inside the poor creature. But that's not all. It takes away the crab's reproductive function. Eventually, the parasite's prey becomes a living puppet, but it's not destined to die quickly. On the contrary, the infected crab begins to live longer than its healthy congeners. Green-banded broodsac. The next parasite I'm going to talk about is not an exotic and rare species of any snail. These large green horns are nothing but… Why am I rushing though? Now you'll understand everything yourself. Okay, so let's start with the fact that the adult worm is in the gut of some feathered creature. Don't ask me why, you'll figure it out as we go. So the worm's in the bird. There it lays its eggs and they fall to the ground along with the droppings of the bird. As we know, there are many creatures in the world that keep everything clean and eat other animals' waste. Snails are one of them. They find these eggs and eat them without even realizing it. Only after some time will it become clear that the poor snails have fallen into the clutches of the parasite. The eggs begin to develop in its body and germinate into an additional larva. This thing acquires a green color and it also increases in size. From the outside, it begins to look as if it's an integral part of the snail, but it's not. Nevertheless, birds don't know this. For for them, everything seems very clear and understandable. They notice the moving outgrowths and pounce on them with pleasure. They eat the snail and devour the next eggs, which develop already inside them. A worm appears there, which lays eggs again. They get into the droppings of the bird, fall to the ground, and so on. Remora. I've always wondered why some fish don't stick to others to give them a free ride to one point or another. After all, there's not a lot of strength in these creatures. It shouldn't be very difficult. Turns out that some fish do this. Not ordinary fish, but parasites. Here, take a look at this. It looks like an ordinary fish, doesn't it? It's unremarkable, but in fact, it has this mark on the top of its head. Of course, it's not the footprint of a rude human stepping on the fish, but something more dangerous. More specifically, it's a modified dorsal fin turned into a suction cup. Inside it, there are 17 to 19 thin plates resembling the stripes on the louvers. The suction cup is surrounded by an elastic skin roller. When the fish swims independently, these plates lie flat. Once attached to some surface, the remora contracts the muscles in the suction cup, causing these strips to turn ribbed upward and create airless chambers between them. It's thanks to this complicated scheme that the remora manages to stick to other fish forever without any problems. More often, such creatures can be seen on stronger sea creatures, like sharks. By choosing such a life companion, they kill two birds with one stone. They're protected and can migrate over long distances without spending energy. Oh yes, they also get the opportunity to feed on food that the shark didn't finish. And let's continue the episode with other unusual creatures. There are some amazing stories about bugs and more. Goliath beetles. Riding a motorcycle across Africa is risky, but interesting. On the one hand, you can explore as much of this unique continent as possible, and that's great. But on the other hand, you can put yourself in danger, because at any moment you can stumble across a Goliath beetle, a giant and a local inhabitant of which there are 5 species. The length of the largest individuals can exceed 4 inches, and they weigh almost 2 ounces. And if we take into account the tremendous speed of both the creature and the tourist, an accidental collision with the beetle can potentially be fatal. Because of such size, these beetles are not afraid of anyone at all. They feel as confident as possible. But at the same time, they also feel discomfort because of this. It's about their flight. To start flying, the Goliath beetle needs to warm up its own body to 95 degrees Fahrenheit, which usually takes at least 10 minutes. In addition, for such a heavy body to be able to fly, it's important to maintain a reserve of energy, and its best source is sweets. For example, fruit, no matter fresh or rotten, juices left after people, and so on. As a rule, Goliath beetles sit in trees, and they fly only in search of females. A well-developed sense of smell helps them find the females. These creatures are protected from external factors by a thick shell coating. However, one of the most amazing features of Goliath beetles is definitely not it. I'm talking about a tremendous force. These beetles are capable of lifting objects 850 times their weight. Moreover, these insects have an unusual way of protection. They can whistle, releasing air from their tracheal openings, which creates a characteristic sound. Interestingly, in some cultures, the Goliath beetle is considered a precious jewel and is used in the form of keychains. However, the illegal trade in these beetles has led to their disappearance in some regions. Actors without an Oscar. Animals often pretend to be dead. I guess that's no surprise to anyone. They do it to stay alive and make hungry and powerful predators look away from them. But did you know that ants do it too? Or rather, entire colonies of them. They can pretend to be dead at the same time. It's not for nothing they say that an anthill is not a hodgepodge of different ants but a single organism. Scientists accidentally stumbled upon this phenomenon while inspecting an ant colony. People thought that the ants are dead, but then suddenly one of them moved, and the rest moved after it. Most likely the insects mistook people for predators which were going to eat them. Scientists cannot say how and why this happens. The triggers for the behavior of these insects are difficult to explain. Some ants take a while to stop moving, while others do it immediately. When the researchers moved the ants pretending to be dead with a twig, they came to life for a while and then pretended to be dead again. Bombardier beetle. Next up is the bombardier beetle, a small creature about 0.4 inches long that lives in forests and fields around the world. It gets its name from its ability to attack an enemy by shooting liquid containing near-boiling chemical compounds at them. They can be heated up to 212 degrees Fahrenheit. The chemical reactions taking place in the bug's body create this explosive charge and allow it to defend itself against predators. Most amazingly, the bombardier beetle releases this fluid through a special hole in its rear end that resembles a cannon. The charge bursts out with such force and speed that it distracts and confuses the predator for a few seconds, giving the beetle time to flee. The bombardier beetle has another feature. It's able to adjust the temperature of its shot depending upon which creature is attacking it. For example, if it's attacked by an enemy that's running fast in the sand, the beetle fires a liquid with a higher temperature so that it will neutralize the runner at least for a while. It's worth noting that before firing a shot, the bombardier beetle utters a kind of battle cry that warns its opponent of the impending danger. This is done to give the opponent another chance to retreat and not attack, as the bombardier beetle uses its fluid only as a last resort. Pond skater the other way around. While exploring the territory of Australia, scientists noticed something strange in the water unlike anything else. When they got closer, they saw a beetle, but not just any beetle, but one that walked along the underside of the water surface. From time to time, this creature stopped and then continued its march again. According to the first assumptions, it could have been a beetle known as a water scavenger beetle. However, it's still unknown how it managed to move along the lower surface of the water. Researchers think that the clue lies in the air bubble that was stuck on its upside-down abdomen. The beetle's body is covered with many tiny hair-like protrusions that allow it to trap air, especially on its abdomen and legs. This air can create an upward lifting force that's enough to pin the beetle to the surface of the water. And now I want to show you some amazing baby animals that you'll see for the first time in your life. Sugar glider. The first guest of our episode lives in Australia and is listed in the Red Book. These babies have incredibly soft fur and an adorable face. These animals are gregarious and active at night. However, if they have a good company, they'll not mind changing their usual mode for the sake of relationships. The sugar glider is called so because of its predilection for sweet things. Flower nectar, pollen, sweet sap of trees. This animal eats all this with great pleasure. At the same time, the sugar glider does not live so little. 8 years in the wild is quite a normal age for it. At home, the animal can live 10 or even 15 years. Speaking of home, if any of you think that such exotic animals are aggressive, you don't have to worry about the sugar glider. The animal can bite you only if it's badly frightened. Besides, this is possible only in the first days when the pet adapts to the terrain. Actually, you shouldn't worry about this animal. It's far from being stupid and perfectly responds to the intonation of the voice. The animal is quite possible to teach some simple commands. Plus, you can teach it to respond to its name. Would you like to get yourself such a baby? Write in the comments. But who is unlikely to be taken in, unless you live on some farm, is a takin. Remember the myth of the golden fleece? Well, legend has it that it was from a takin that Jason got the golden fleece. The locals also call this bull, more succinctly, the kin. I wonder what reaction the ancient people had when they first encountered this creature. It's like it's made up of scraps of different creatures. Its head is from the moose, its tail is from the bear, and its limbs are like those of the mountain goat. The torso reminds me personally that of the bison. Moreover, as scientists say, there's also the musk ox in the relatives of the takin. In general, this is not an artiodactyl, but some kind of cocktail of everything. Despite its handsome and statuesque appearance, the takin mainly feeds on leaves. Its menu includes moss, rhododendron leaves, and tree bark, which its metabolism allows it to digest. But the most favorite food is bamboo leaves, a treat for which the takin is available to become the 6.5-foot height. Besides, the takin is not particularly fond of clashes. As soon as it sees any danger, the giant would rather lie on the ground and stretch out its head, pretending to be dead. No, it doesn't let things go. The kin can listen to the stomping of the ground. It can hear all the vibrations. That way it can orient itself and, in case of anything, avoid an attack or fight back. Probably because of this, the animal prefers to live in the mountains, where there are a lot of stones on which it can knock and warn its congeners in case of emergency. What's funny, the babies of these animals try to repeat everything after their elders from a young age. Apparently, responsibility is in their blood. It turns out that the baby constantly wants to learn, and the elders always teach them something new. But as soon as the mother realizes that the baby's ready for independent life, it completely loses interest in it, giving it to the care of a babysitter. Yes, there's always one female babysitter in the herd bringing up the younger generation. What are the criteria for appointing it? It's not at all clear, but it is so, and no one can argue with it. Snub-nosed monkey. Did you order a cute monkey? No? Well, then the snub-nosed monkey will just go about its business while you watch it from the sidelines. Just don't embarrass it. It's still young, and of course, there will be lots of people watching it in the future. No matter how you look at it, such a striking appearance from nature leaves no one indifferent to this monkey. The monkey from China spends most of its time in the trees, coming down only when absolutely necessary. In case of force majeure, a group of monkeys quickly climbs the nearest tree. They climb the trunk as high as possible, striving to constantly be as high as possible. Snub-nosed monkeys do not disdain living in the mountains. However, they do not go into purely mountainous conditions, where there are only rocks without vegetation. Snub-nosed monkeys need such an unusual color not only to surprise people, but also for warmth in cold weather. In winter, snub-nosed monkeys have to eat bark, needles, and various lichens. In summer, the menu of the monkeys is richer. This includes leaves, shoots of young trees, fruits, and seeds, and flowers supplement the monkey diet with necessary elements. By the way, do you know what's considered a delicacy among snub-nosed monkeys? You'll never guess. Wild onions and nuts. The females of these cute monkeys constantly quarrel, but Mother Nature helped them find a common language. That very beautiful fur that requires care helps in this, and since it's not very convenient to take care of it personally, one has to call someone for help. Care procedures are both a means of communication and a special ritual that leads the entire monkey group to harmony. As for the upbringing of babies, pregnancy in snub-nosed monkeys lasts about 7 months. After that, such beautiful creatures are born, which the mother will feed for the next year. When there's less food around, breastfeeding can last longer. Babies, as a rule, are protected by the entire monkey group. An interesting feature of these Asian monkeys is that they constantly keep their babies in the center of the group so that the elders are on the edges. This is an excellent method of protecting the young generation from a sudden threat. Capybara. That's the name of the rodent that sees right through everyone. These cute creatures are also known as greater capybaras. You can encounter them in South America, where they have inhabited almost all tropical and temperate zones of the continent. In addition, there is one interesting feature in their life. Capybaras never go away from bodies of water farther than about 3,000 feet. After all, water is their main source of vitality, a way to cool down in hot weather, and at the same time a shelter from predators. In the latter, capybaras are helped by their ability to swim. The thick and hard fur consists of a waterproof hair, the webs between the fingers form an additional grip, and the brick-shaped muzzle does not interfere with the dynamics. Oh yes, how could I forget about their main advantage? High-set eyes and nostrils allow the rodents to breathe and see everything around while their body is completely hidden by water. It'd be a crime to have such opportunities from nature and not live in bodies of water. Having left their almost native aquatic environment, capybaras lead quite a regular way of life. They do not hurry anywhere, eat grass and algae. Feeding in capybaras is a separate art form. Not only do they burp food several times and chew it again, but they also love their natural secretions. In short, not a single calorie, not a single useful thing will pass them by. They take everything from life. But I would call their ability to distinguish friends from enemies as their main feature. Scientists can't explain it, but animals sense who wants to harm them and who is completely safe. How do you think they do it? Fennec. And this is an African animal which weighs about 2 pounds as a baby and as an adult it seems just tiny. The thing that attracts me the most about this fox is its ears. They perfectly catch even the most insignificant rustles. It's thanks to its ears that the fennec is very successful in hunting in the dark. What's surprising, although this animal is not famous for its size, it can jump almost 5 feet long. And also, despite its short legs, the fennec can accelerate up to 20 miles per hour. This fox feels cold as soon as the temperature drops below 68 degrees Fahrenheit. Eye. To say that this animal has an unusual appearance is an understatement. The eye is a primate, just like lemurs or monkeys. However, their appearance is quite different from their primate relatives. Eyes are small, they grow up to 12 to 16 inches in length, and weigh an average of 7 pounds. The image is completed by lush tail and wide-open, always surprised eyes, almost like those of the cat from Shrek. But eyes can surprise not only with their bulging eyes, they're also famous for their ears. It's said that they have the largest ears among all primates. It's not so much their size that's interesting, but their structure. The eye ears are able to focus even on the subtle movement of larvae and insects in tree trunks. They have unique eyes and peerless ears. Can Mother Nature stop surprising us? But no, Mother Nature has also added ever-growing teeth to them, which is why the eye constantly grinds them off. Peccary. Next, we have another amazing animal, this time from Central America. It looks like an ordinary pig, doesn't it? That's right. Just as we've been fooled by peccaries right now, scientists were fooled by them years ago. It turns out that these animals separated from pigs as much as 50 million years ago. These animals got a complex 3-chambered stomach, a scent gland on their backs, and very strong 3-edged fangs. In addition, they hardly ever eat meat. They only eat roots, nuts, or mushrooms. The peccary's hunting skills are only enough to stir up a nest or chop up a lizard. They may be considered inept, but baby peccaries are on their feet the next day after birth. In less than 3 months, they're separated from their parents and go on an independent journey. The average life expectancy of these animals in captivity reaches 24 years. That's all, guys. Which baby animal is the cutest? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching, and see you later.